In the United States, Republican Party candidate Donald Trump wins presidential election. In Palestine, at least 100 chronically ill patients, including children, are waiting for evacuation out of Gaza. And Hurricane Rafael swept past the Cayman Islands while expected to rapidly intensify before making landfall on Wednesday in western Cuba. It's forecast to hit as Category 2 hurricane. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the United States, Republican Party candidate Donald Trump becomes the new president of the North American country. Donald Trump has won the U.S. presidential election, defeating in the electoral votes count his Democratic contender Kamala Harris, crossing the 270 mark after securing Wisconsin. Trump's victory over Vice President Kamala Harris makes him the first former president to return to power in non-consecutive terms since Grover Cleveland regained the White House in the 1892 elections. He was the first convicted criminal to win the highest elected office in the United States. Republicans also took control of the Senate, flipping seats in Ohio and West Virginia. This election is considered one of the most significant in recent U.S. history, with results that could shape both the future of the nation and global geopolitics over the next 4 years.
And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Meanwhile, Republicans won control of the U.S. Senate on Tuesday with victories in West Virginia and Ohio, guaranteeing that the party will control at least one chamber of Congress next year. In this sense, neither party appeared to have a clear advantage in the battle for the House of Representatives, which Republicans now control by a narrow margin. But Tuesday's results guarantee that Republicans could help Trump appoint conservative judges and other government staff. Let's now continue going deeper into the analysis post-Election Day. For that, we are joined by James Early, member of the Board of Trustees of the Institute for Policy Studies, Washington, D.C. Welcome, James, to From the South.
Good morning. Pleased to be here with you this difficult morning.
James, how can we understand Donald Trump's victory, meaning that the fact that not only he won in the electoral votes, but for the first time also in popular votes?
I think the most significant thing is that 2/3 of the American people in their multicultural, gender, ethnic expressions support the policies and the attitude of Donald Trump towards democracy. So it is on the social base of voters that I think we should pay close attention. Donald Trump is an unpredictable, racist, fascist, misogynist, accused of rape, expelled 2 times in the electoral and the federal system for charges against him. But the American people, 2/3 of the voters have spoken. That is where the real challenge is.
You anticipate Trump's victory will reshape U.S. foreign policies, particularly in relation to China and Russia?
That is an interesting question. It would appear that with regard to Russia, that he may be more aligned in trying to bring to some kind of end the Russian invasion of Ukraine, in which Ukraine will make the compromise that they probably should have made earlier, that they are not going to be able to continue this war. With regard to China, I think it remains to be seen, but Trump as a personality likes strong leaders, and the Chinese leader is a very strong leader of his country. So we will have to wait to see how that gets negotiated. I think the more pressing question in our continent is what will be the Trump's administration's orientation towards Cuba. The Biden-Harris administration intensified the Trump economic warfare against Cuba. What will be the Trump administration's relationship towards the Venezuelan government with Nicolas Maduro is an outstanding question, and of course Nicaragua. What will be the Trump administration's relationship with Lula da Silva's administration in Brazil? These are outstanding questions because immigration is one of the key issues that the American public on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, have been concerned about. And these economic warfares by the Harris administration, by the Biden-Harris administration, also by the previous Trump administration against Venezuela has pushed out several million people, has pushed out 2 million citizens in Cuba in the last few years. These are economic war push outs. And so they put a lot of strain on the immigration policy. So we will have to see whether or not they will make some kind of compromise with both the Cuban government as well as with the Venezuelan government to try and stem the tide, breaking this blockade so that Cuba can stabilize its economy and stopping the economic warfare against Venezuela so that so many Venezuelans are not pushed out economically or intricately tied up with the issue of immigration.
Well, I was going to ask about Venezuela and Cuba, but since you already touched that topic, let's change the question and ask about its traditional allies, especially in Europe and Asia, given Trump's America First approach. He has spoken a lot about defunding NATO in a way and calling other people to put more. How do you expect that to go on?
I think it will be a tense and somewhat unstable relationship with NATO, as Trump demonstrated before. Objectively, Trump has stood against NATO, and I think that will have great influence on bringing to the table a just peace with regard to Russia and Ukraine. I suspect that the Europeans are very, very nervous today about Donald Trump because they saw what he did in his first term. So that I think that is going to be a more unstable relationship.
The situation in the Middle East has also been a key issue during this whole electoral campaign, especially in terms of the Israeli aggressions against the people of Palestine and Lebanon. How do you see Trump's return to power shaping that conflict over there?
Well, in some ways, that has already been shaped by the Biden-Harris administration's alignment with Netanyahu, who has already expanded his genocidal war against Palestinians to go into actually try and control the government of Lebanon, and seems poised to attack Iran. And so that this conflict is already set in motion, and I don't think it's going to be easily for Donald Trump's administration to simply walk back on that. We will have to see how this Donald Trump administration handles the U.S. military, with African Americans, Austin and Brown being the two lead men in the U.S. military. Will he keep them in their positions? These are some of the questions, the pressing questions that we must be concerned about, both here in the United States and with the international community.
A question, James, in your view, what long-term implications can a new Trump's administration have both for the United States and for the world?
Well, this is much bigger than Donald Trump. Although Donald Trump is a very powerful kind of personality, it is the MAGA movement which has taken over local, state, and federal platforms of governance, which is the most significant thing. They now have an organized approach, including to the judiciary. We can expect that Donald Trump will appoint more right-wing, misogynist, racist, anti-immigrant justices to the Supreme Court, and that MAGA governments across the United States will be strengthened. So it is the institutions of governance that they are taking over. They have a very strategic plan with Steve Bannon, who is the international liaison with people like Orban, people like Bolsonaro in Brazil. So this is a very dangerous moment that is going to last more than 4 years, because they are taking over the platform of governance. It's not just a personality in Donald Trump that is moving forward.
Thank you, James, for your time here with us From the South.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you. Let's now take a first short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's continue on topic on the aftermath of the U.S. elections. We go now live with our special envoy, Jorge Gestoso, for the latest updates on everything that is happening following Trump's victory in yesterday's election.
It was most definitely an overwhelming victory of Donald Trump's last night in this presidential election. Why? Because he did perform extremely well, outperform all the presidents in previous elections, an average of 3% in all the 50 states. And in the case of, for example, the state of Wisconsin, that was the state considered one of the states that could go from one side to the other, he was breaking what was the tradition of the Democrats to win that state. So most definitely he gained in almost all areas: women, black people, Hispanics. We're talking about a guy that has been talking about awful things about Hispanics, and Hispanics are still, for example, in Wisconsin, Latinos were voting for him. The key issue here, it was very clever marketing in terms of the issues that he addressed. The key issues: economy. 45% of Americans say that they're living worse today than 4 years ago. And then immigration. It has been presented to the American people that the migrants are the enemies that are come here to poison the blood of America, to steal jobs, to fill hospitals, etc., etc., etc. So he did outperform his rival in terms of choosing in a better way what people wanted to hear. And what is not less important is that he has also will be having a very comfortable situation vis-a-vis of the assembly. We're talking about the Congress. Now the Senate is in the hands of the Republicans, and most probably, or it has a high probability that the House of Representatives also will be in the hands of the Republican Party. In that case, it will have a very smooth sailing in terms of pushing his agenda. So therefore, today, we could say that the Republican Party and Donald Trump are celebrating big time what happened in the polls last night. We get back to you now.
Thank you, Gestoso, for the latest information. We'll stay in touch for upcoming news brief. Let's continue now with other news. Palestine, according to the World Health Organization, at least 100 chronically ill patients are waiting for evacuation out of Gaza, among them children. In this regard, Dr. Rick Peppercorn, WHO representative for the occupied Palestinian territories, said that the evacuees are part of a list of priority candidates compiled by the Ministry of Health in Gaza. Peppercorn further added that since the closure of the Rafah border between Gaza and Egypt on May 2024, approximately 282 medical evacuations have taken place. In this case, the patients will travel in a large convoy to the Arab Emirates and Romania to receive necessary care.
He has a war injury. He had a fractured spine, a broken foot, burns on his hands and back, and stiff bones. The child suffers from autism and hyperactivity. He woke up the second day, unable to get up or move due to the war injury. He fell from the third floor and we found him on the ground, the rubble under and above him. His 2 brothers were martyred, and 3 of my sons, and their wives and 5 of my grandchildren. I woke up and did not find anyone in the house.
My son's condition has deteriorated a lot. He currently has ulcers on his back that have reached the bone. He cannot move his legs at all. He needs intensive physical therapy and requires surgical operations. I have been waiting for 5 months for any day for him to come out for treatment and for his condition to improve. Thank God they call us today. God willing, he will head to the United Arab Emirates.
The Israeli aggression against Lebanon enters its 44th day, causing dozens of martyrs and wounded. The number of martyrs continues to increase since the beginning of the aggression on October 8, 2023. The Public Health Emergency Operations Center of the Ministry of Public Health issued a statement announcing that the non-definite balance of the Israeli enemy attack on Burja have risen to 20 deaths and 14 wounded. In the context of the destructive war waged by Israeli forces against Lebanon, particularly in southern parts of the country, military operations have intensified to unprecedented levels. More than 37 localities have been completely razed, resulting in the total destruction of over 40,000 homes. And in Lebanon, the Ministry of Culture condemned the criminal attacks of the Israeli regime on the nation and its archaeological monuments. The organization stresses that the Zionist occupation seeks to destroy history, civilization, and brotherhood, stressing that for Tel Aviv it is unbearable not to have history in Palestine. So it tries to erase its history and sink the region and those who support it. The entity also highlighted the country's position in demanding a ceasefire and the implementation of the International Resolution 1701 of the United Nations without amendments that demands the cessation of hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel. Meanwhile, in Syria, the armed forces reported violent Israeli bombardments against the municipality of Al-Qusayr in the province of Homs, near the border with Lebanon, leaving 1 dead and 5 wounded. According to local media, the air raids targeted several buildings. Likewise, the systematic attack by the Tel Aviv regime caused heavy fires and severe damage to infrastructure in the industrial zone. It is important to point out that last October 31st, the same city was the target of a similar aggression that left at least 10 people dead. It is worth noting that Israel has intensified its hostile military actions against targets in Syrian territory, some of them against suburbs of the capital, Damascus. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date with the world's most recent events. Found your break, don't go away. Welcome back. Hurricane Rafael swerved past the Cayman Islands, expected to rapidly intensify before landfall as Category 2 hurricane on Wednesday in western Cuba. The storm was about 310 kilometers south-southeast of Havana, had maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour, and was moving northwest at 22 kilometers per hour. According to the National Weather Service of the U.S., located in Miami, forecasters warn that Rafael will slammed into Cuba on Wednesday after dumping rain on Jamaica and the Cayman Islands on Tuesday. The center warned of floods, storm surges, and mudslides in Cuba. The Provincial Defense Council of Havana also ordered suspension of public transport services, as the hurricane will have a direct impact on the western part of the island, especially its capital. The United Nations reported that more than 2 billion inhabitants of the planet's major cities could face an additional temperature increase of at least 0.5 degrees Celsius by 2040. UN Habitat estimated that cities need an investment of between 4.5 and 5.4 trillion US dollars per year to build and maintain climate-resilient systems. However, current financing is estimated at $831 billion. In this regard, the agencies recognize that this shortfall leaves cities, and especially their most vulnerable populations, exposed to increasing risks. In addition, the director of the entity, Anna Claudia Rosbach, urged an accelerated transformation of neighborhoods and attention to the needs of the most vulnerable areas of cities. Spain has announced a €10.6 billion aid package to help those affected by flash floods that killed at least 217 people and destroyed businesses and homes last week. According to Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, the package includes €838 million in cash handouts to small businesses and freelance workers affected by the disaster. The package also includes €5 billion of state-guaranteed loans, while the national government will finance 100% of the cleanup costs by local councils and half the repair to infrastructure. In addition, the Prime Minister said that Spain had also requested aid from the European Union Solidarity Fund.
There are €10.6 billion in this first response of the first phase of this immediate reconstruction and recovery plan for the Valencian community. It is a good first step, an agile and ambitious step with concrete, realistic measures that are coming into force now and that are going to help people and businesses in the coming days and weeks.
In Brazil, the Chinese Film Festival kicks off in Rio de Janeiro as part of the reinforcement of integration between the Brazilian and Chinese peoples. The festival will run until November 8th and will showcase the contemporary diversity of Chinese cinema while reflecting and celebrating the cultural ties between Brazil and the Asian nation. During the event, free films will be screened at special times at the Odeon Cinema and the Kinoplex São Luís Cinema. The festival program, that includes 9 feature films, is organized by the Brazil-China Sociocultural Institute, IBRA-China, and it is the result of a partnership between the governments of both nations. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.